So the Golden State Warriors had a pretty disappointing end to their season, but overall I would call it a pretty positive year simply because of the fact that their roster wasn't that talented, yet they were literally a possession away from making the playoffs. But now we have to look onto the future of this team and the offseason, and there have been a lot of hype surrounding the Warriors next year, largely due to the fact that Klay Thompson is likely to return. But in my opinion, I think the Warriors need to add more stuff than just Klay Thompson. So in today's video, I'll be naming some things that I think the Golden State Warriors need to do. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want more NBA content like this, and to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. I'm really close. And comment on this video, start a conversation with me as I actually do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. The first thing the Warriors need to do this offseason is to try and sign Kawhi Leonard. And it might sound something that's impossible to happen, but there have been some rumblings about it, so I'm not just making stuff up. And if the Warriors could actually sign Kawhi this offseason, it would be absolutely humongous for them. But before I speak about how cool it would to fit Kawhi on this team, we have to discuss how the Warriors would actually get him. Because if you look at their salary cap, they have Steph Curry with a ginormous contract, Klay Thompson with a ginormous contract, Draymond Green with a really big contract, and Andrew Wiggins with a big contract. So at this current moment, they have no money to pay Kawhi Leonard because he's obviously going to ask for a lot of money. But if they were to trade Andrew Wiggins and his humongous contract, they would have enough money to get Kawhi. Now, with the way Andrew Wiggins played this season, I don't think it's crazy to think that he has value. Maybe you could get some solid role players or picks for him. Doesn't really matter what you get in return for him, because if you could get Kawhi, that's a huge deal. But if they were to actually get Kawhi, I honestly think it would make them favorites to come out of the Western Conference, because a duo of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kawhi Leonard is definitely a team that is capable of winning the championship. And I think it would be the second best trio in the league behind the Brooklyn Nets duo of Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. But nonetheless, the Warriors with Kawhi would be absolutely fantastic, and in my opinion, I think it has a legitimate chance of happening, not only because there have been rumors of it, but because the fit is pretty perfect with this team, since Golden State needs another superstar type of player besides Steph, and Kawhi Leonard just wants to make it to the NBA Finals and win some championships, and they could both help each other out. You also have to remember that they're going to have Klay Thompson, who even at worst, at the absolute worst, he's still going to be an amazing shooter, because I don't think the injury will affect his shooter. So he's still going to be playing like the second best shooter in NBA history, and when you add Draymond Green in that, one of the best defenders in the league's history, and a six-man in Jordan Poole, that team's extremely scary, and I hope it doesn't happen because I'm a Lakers fan and that would honestly scare me to death. The second thing I think the Golden State Warriors need to do is trade James Wiseman. And this is a take that most Warrior fans are 50-50 on, and that's because, don't get me wrong, James Wiseman had some very up moments this season in his rookie year where you can see potential of him being an all-star, but he also had moments where you look at him and he just looks so rough and inexperienced. And that's not necessarily his fault, because I think in the future he's still going to be an all-star level player, and every rookie struggles. And I think that in the future he will be good, but not in the next 2 or 3 years. And Steph Curry is 33 years old, so he needs a championship contending team right now, not 2 years down the road. So I think they should trade James Wiseman while his value is still pretty high, and trade the Minnesota pick in exchange for a star, because the package of James Wiseman, a potential future all-star, and a pick from the 5th to 10th spot is definitely going to get you something big in return for some players. I think they could potentially get Bradley Beal of the Washington Wizards if he's unhappy where the team is at the moment, CJ McCollum if the Blazers decide to make big moves, maybe after losing to the Denver Nuggets in the first round, Jonas Valanciunas if the Grizzlies just want to get younger and get James Wiseman, maybe Miles Turner from the Indiana Pacers, because he would fit perfectly on this team as a great rim protector and amazing three-point shooter, or maybe even Al Horford from the OKC Thunder, because we know how they love young players and draft picks. I'm not saying the exact move should be James Wiseman in the pick, but those are some players that they could easily get using James Wiseman, and I think all those players would absolutely help them out a lot. And I think if they make that move this offseason, it needs to be including James Wiseman and that pick. The third thing the Golden State Warriors need to do, in my opinion, is that this offseason they need to look into getting more guys who can shoot the 3-ball at a good level, as well as some guys who can handle the ball and create plays for others at a good level. Because arguably the Warriors' biggest weakness this season was the fact that, unlike previous seasons, outside of Steph Curry, Damian Lee, Jordan Poole, and Andrew Wiggins, everyone else on the team was probably a below average shooter. And in my opinion, that's simply not enough shooting. And another problem with them was the fact that outside of Steph Curry and Draymond Green, no one else on that team could really make plays for others at a good level. And I think if they had another guy who could create plays for others, it would be absolutely huge for them. And this offseason, there are plenty of guys who could fit that role at a great level. Some guys who could fit the role for shooting is a guy like Otto Porter Jr. who can also defend. And a few years ago, he had the highest 3-point percentage in the league. Danny Green's an amazing 3-point shooter despite his inconsistency. Tim Hardaway Jr. is underratedly one of the best shooters in the entire league. Evan Fournier is a good shooter. Tony Snell had the best 3-point percentage in the league this season, so obviously he's great. Patty Mills is an excellent shooter, and so is Doug McDermott. And there's plenty of players, but I'm not going to name them all. But nonetheless, the Warriors have to add more 3-point shooting around Steph, because that will basically make them an unguardable team, since defenses won't be able to double team him as easily. And if they do, then he could just kick it out to an excellent shooter. And a lot of the shooters I named are not guys who are going to be crazy expensive. So in my opinion, the Warriors need to get that move done. And in terms of ball handlers who can create plays for others, some guys they could go after is a guy like Will Barton, who's more of a scorer, but he could definitely handle the ball. Patty Mills is a guy who could create plays for others. So is Goran Dragic and Derrick Rose. And there's a few other players who they could get as well. I think if they were getting some more 3-point shooting and a bit more playmaking, since I feel Jordan Poole is going to really break out next season, but more as a scorer, not really a playmaker, it would take their team to the absolute next level. But nonetheless, both those things would really help their team out. The fourth thing the Warriors need to do is something that's kind of obvious, but it is that the Warriors need to make sure that Klay Thompson is healthy coming into this season. And I know you might be thinking this is pretty obvious, which it is, but as we seen last season, Klay is now someone who I would consider an injury-prone player. So I think they need to make sure he's conditioned well, as well as making that he's somewhat close to what he is before. Because if Klay returns and he's not his old self, that puts a serious cap on how good this Warriors team can actually be. Because I believe with a healthy Klay, this is a team that could be a top 3 team in the Western Conference. But if it's Klay Thompson, who's just a great shooter and who's not good on defense and is a bit slower and can't move off ball a bit better, they might maybe just be the 6th or 7th best team in the West, which is an improvement, but not as good as they actually could be. But nonetheless, I hope Klay is healthy this year, and I think the Warriors need to make it a priority that he stays healthy this year. They probably already are, but I'm just making sure because that's a big deal. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know what moves you think the Warriors should do. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want weekly NBA content, and touch my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And comment this video, set a conversation, as I actually do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.